Audacity is a program where you can record, edit, and export audio for use in another program. I use Audacity to edit audio for Doodly, Camtasia, and Adobe Character Animator. Audacity is free to use. Gone are the old days when free software was a red flag for a program that was going to cause you a problem. In this tutorial, I'll show you the basics on how to use the program, as well as the settings you need. So let's get this show on the road. When you open the Audacity website, this is what you see. Now remember, as I said in the intro, this program is free. You don't even have to sign up for anything. Like some free programs you have to do that, but this you don't have to do that. Right here is where you download Audacity. So when you download it, it will probably put a launch icon on your desktop or wherever it usually goes on your computer. So that's all there is to that. When you open Audacity, this is what you see. Now, if you've never seen Audacity before, I know this sounds like a lot of stuff. So all these doodads up here, you won't have to worry about learning all this stuff in all these menus until it comes to the time where you really need to. I've learned enough about Audacity to where I can do pretty much what I need to do on it. I mean, I don't want to put you in a coma by going over every single thing. I only use Audacity for voiceovers for YouTube. I don't do audiobooks and I don't sing, thank God. You should be grateful for that. So let's take a look at some things that you need to look at. Right here, here's where you should check to make sure that your microphone is here. And my microphone is USB audio device, so it's the correct one. Sometimes I know some people have said that when they plug in a different microphone, it doesn't automatically find it. Then all you have to do is to, pull down the menu and make sure that your microphone is right there. And now some other things that we need to check is down here in the left-hand corner is something called project rate. And that should be set at 44,100 hertz. If you'll notice, if you open the menu, it has a lot of other choices. Pretty much I've set this on 44,100. And if you want to set it on something different when you, have some other things that you need to do, then to do that. Now, if you look up here where the tiny little microphone is and the tiny little speaker, this is where you're going to have your recording level right here and your playback level. Once we record and we see the playback, what you don't want is you'll find there's a colored bar that comes up. And this colored bar will be green, yellow. If it turns red, that means it is too loud. And what happens if it's too loud? Well, it's going to cut off some of your sound. So you don't want that to happen. Generally, I set this around -18. That works for me, but I have found that if I change microphones, that I need to fiddle with it a little bit because it doesn't look like it's supposed to look. Okay, now if you look right here in Audio Setup, you'll see that we have Host, which should be set at MME, Playback Device, which is whatever playback device you're using. In my case right now, I've got a USB headset on, so that is my playback device. The recording device is my microphone, my USB microphone. Recording channel should be mono. You probably would use stereo if you're doing something like music or something like that, but as I said, I just do voiceovers, so it It really doesn't matter. Now, if you go down here to audio settings, this will show in this square everything we talked about. MME, the USB headset I have on, the microphone, USB microphone, I'm set to mono. So all we have to do is to close that because we don't have to change anything. You'll also see all these settings in the top horizontal toolbar. MME, microphone, speakers, and all that sort of thing. Okay. Now we're ready to record something. Once you're ready to record, it's a good idea. Well, here's a record button. I mean, it's just like a tape recorder or any other kind of recorder where you press a little red button. Generally, what you want to do is press the button and count to 3. That's going to give you some dead space at the beginning, and you'll want to have that much space at the end. I will tell you after that why we do that. But let's try it out and see what I sound like. This is an example of how I use Audacity. This should be a pretty simple task. Our first, audio. Now, this is the waveform. I coughed and I took a breath and all that stuff that was pretty obvious because I want to show you what happens when you do that. I think you'll find that if you've never done a voiceover before, each of us has our own set of problems. In my case, I have really bad allergies. So a microphone, and the better the microphone, the worse it is. I have an external Blue Yeti. It picks up every breath I take. And I've got really bad allergies, so that is a problem. And I also, tend to, it'll pick up your lip smacks, that sound and things like that. But this is where we're going to start off. So the first thing that we need to do is to select the whole thing. On Windows, it's Control A. On a Mac, I have no clue. I have not used a Mac in, I bet, 30 years or something like that. So other than the fact it's got an Apple on it, I couldn't tell you what the key shortcuts are. But I'm sure if you use a Mac, you will know that anyway. So we've selected the whole waveform. How tall it is tells you how loud it is, and that's called amplitude. Remembering back to your physics and physical science classes. So now that we've selected the waveform, the first thing we're going to do is go up here to Effect, and then go down here to Volume and Compression, and then go down here to Normalize. And then we're going to click Normalize. Okay, you need to make sure that Remove DC Offset is checked, and that Normalize Peak Amplitude is also checked, and it's set to -2 decibels. So we click Apply, okay, and it changes the wave a little bit. Okay, then the next thing you do is you go to Effect again, Volume and Compression, and then you go to Compressor. And then you'll see this thing with a little line on it. Down here is what you really need to be concerned about. Threshold needs to be set to -18 decibels. Noise floor -40 decibels. Ratio 2.5 to 1. Attack time 1.80. I have mine at 1.81, but that's because I couldn't control my slider enough to get it to that 1.8, but that's fine. Release time is 11.1 seconds. And then makeup gain should be checked. And then you press Apply. Okay. Now, something I want to point out. See this wave right here? If it gets up above this line, it's going to get cut off in your sound. So hopefully when we get to the end of this, it's not going to look that bad. Okay, now, go back to Effect again. Go to EQ and Filters, and then Filter Curve EQ. Okay, then you're going to go to Presets and Settings, Factory Presets, and then go down here to where it says treble boost, and then hit the treble boost. The line will change, and then you'll hit apply. Okay, now we'll go back to Effect, EQ and Filters, down here to Filter Curve EQ, and then this time you go down here to Factory Presets, and then you go to Bass Boost, and then Apply. Okay, and this is the last one that we can do, or we're going to do, and then we can get out of here. Effect, Volume and Compression, and then you'll go back down here and hit Normalize. We've already been here once, so this should look familiar, and then Apply. Okay, so this is what our waveform looks like. In future videos, I'll talk a little bit about what compression and normalization is, but in this one, I just wanted to show you what the waveform looks like and all these, as I call them, doodads, and all the settings you have to have. Okay, so now let's listen to this, and I'll tell you what we need to do. This is an example of how I use Audacity. This should be a pretty simple task. Our first, audio. Okay. Now, I have the little cough in there and all that. So the first thing we need to do is to go right here. And this is the reason why we left all this in the front. Because what we're going to do is we're going to do a noise reduction on this whole thing to get rid of as much noise as we can. So I will select this. I'll right-click. Well, I won't right-click. Okay, I'll select all this. Whoops. Select all this. And then I'll go to Effect. And right here, it says Noise Reduction and Repair. And then you go down here to Noise Reduction. So here, there's this thing that says Get Noise Profile. So we're going to hit that. Now what it has done is it has taken any noise that is in here and it's copied it, because you can't get rid of the noise unless Audacity knows what noise you're trying to get rid of. So it's taken a sample of it. So now we can select the whole thing with a Control A, and then we can go back and go to Noise Removal and Repair and Noise Reduction. And now we need, this is our concern right now, the noise reduction is 12 decibels, sensitivity is 12.5, and the frequency smoothing is set at 7. And then we hit OK. It's changed a little bit. So basically what it's done is it's taken this and reduced the noise as much as it can over here. Now, I need to warn you about something. You're not going to be able to reduce all the noise in there. Like, see this little thing right here? That is probably my cough, or my lips smacking or sniffing or whatever. Since I've got allergies, now that sniffing has turned into a habit. But it's not going to get rid of that. If you just try to get rid of this, you're going to degrade your regular voiceover, and you don't want to do that. So basically, you just get rid of as much of it as you can. So now that we've done that, we can get rid of this extra stuff at the end by highlighting it, right-clicking, and then we select Cut, and we'll be cutting all that off. Then we left-click and highlight it, and right-click and cut all this off. How much you want to cut off, I think, is a personal preference. I've learned the hard way not to cut too much of it off. But anyway, when we play this now, we should be able to get a pretty good idea of what we need to get rid of. This is an example of how I use Audacity. Okay, so there we are. We have this cough right here. We can get rid of this cough one of two ways. We can either cut it out, or we can make it just go away, and it will turn into, the rest of the line here. If we're going to make it go away, then we just highlight it, and then we'll press this thing that's called Silence Audio Selection. If this was an export from something where you already had a video attached, you're probably going to want to use this selection. And so when you hit it, this is what it does. But the clip is still as long as it used to be when it was attached to the video. If it's not attached to the video, then all you have to do is cut it out. So let's go to Edit and Undo. And now my cough is back. And it's highlighted. So probably what I'm going to want to do is just cut it. So I would right-click on that and then just cut it. And it'll cut that out. So now my cough is gone. Okay. So let's see what the rest of it sounds like. Okay, now I don't know if you heard that. This right here was kind of a lip smacking thing. So I'll want to get rid of that. I'll either cut it or I'll just, get rid of the noise. And you'll see this usually on these types of waveforms. You'll see these little things, or you'll see little dots in between these big waveforms. And those are like, lip smacking things and stuff like that. How much of the breathing and all that stuff you want to get rid of, I think depends on your point of view. I mean, you don't want to leave all the breathing in there and then you sound like, you're suffocating or something, gasping for air. But you don't want to get rid of so much of it where you sound like there's somebody that's dead over there. So I think it's one of those personal preference things. But I very definitely do not like this, so I want to get rid of it. So instead of cutting it, I think I'll just silence it. So I'll hit the silence audio, and now we have just silenced it. So now, and if you don't click off of this is what's going to happen. I'll just show you since I'm thinking about it. It would just stay in that loop. So if you click off of it, then you can... Audacity. This should be a pretty simple task. Our first audio. Okay. Now, on purpose, I left a breath in there. I kind of sighed there. I didn't do a very good job of faking it, but anyway. So then it's your choice. I mean, either get rid of it, silence it, whatever you want to do. This should be a pretty simple task. Yeah, we don't like that. It sounds like somebody just tried to strangle me. Okay. So we can just highlight that part of it and then get rid of this. Then silence it. This should be a pretty simple task. Okay, and that doesn't sound too bad. Now, one other thing I need to warn you about. This should be a pretty simple task. This little thing right there, that's the K on task. When I did my first 5 videos when I started this YouTube channel, I used to listen to the whole wave and, eliminate all the pops and all that stuff. So anything that was a little pop or circle in between all these lines, I would silence them. Well, then I started to get to where, this thing right here, this must be one of those things too. So in one video, I eliminated all of those things. So then what happened was task turned into tasks, fact turned into fact, and so test turned into tests, and all that kind of thing. There is a video out there, I think it's the 4th one, it's actually like that. I didn't do it over, I just went with it. But, it's one of those things, live and learn. My suggestion is pretty much listen to the whole thing. So I think this thing is okay now. This is an example of how I use Audacity. This should be a pretty simple task. Our first audio. Okay. Actually, that sounds better than I usually sound. So I usually have to do some heavy-duty editing, especially if I do my voiceovers in the morning, when my voice tends to be worse. And probably, I'm older too, so somebody told me that eating an apple slice would help. It actually does. I don't know why. I tried it and it does help. So anyway, this is how Audacity works. And so, if you have any comments or anything I might have done differently, leave them in the comments at the end of the video.